In today's video, I'm going to talk about Charon, who is the latest character that has been added to the game. Now, as usual, I'll be going through his skills, his clothes, his constellation, and also I'll post some photos of how to clear off his trial stages at the end of the video. I'm going to start off by telling you that he is a really bad character, especially in the meta right now. He is just going to be really bad. I'll talk about why as I go through of his skills, but if I have to give a quick summary, he is not really suited for PvE. He is should be theoretically be better in PvP. However, his whole skill kit is very much relying on critical hits, and that's very much against the way meta is right now because everyone have a single gold class who actually benefit from getting a critical hit landed on her so she can trigger shield. So that's why Charon doesn't really have a play in PvE in story maps, and in the PvP meta right now, he is not really going to do very well either. So that's why I think he's a really average character. And if you do want to spend the resources in this Golden Shield event to exchange for some other resources, or maybe save up for one of the future character that may be more interesting, definitely do so now. He's definitely, a character you can skip for sure. Alright, so now I'm actually going to go through his skills. He does have one signature skill, I guess, which you can use it for very specific purpose, which is his skill 3. So I'm going to start off with that. And, if you do decide to play Karen in any situation, it will pretty much be because of his skill 3. So basically what his skill 3 does is that you are going to enter a state called Cyclone Blade for 6 seconds. And during that time, you are immune to any damage which is lower than 25% of your max HP, which is decent. And this is kind of why he is not really going to be any good in story maps because in story maps, the enemy are so much higher stats than you. It's very likely their hits are going to be way more than 25% of your max HP, right? A lot of the time, normal attacks hits really hard. So this is just going to be useless because as soon as they hit more than 25% of max HP, this whole looping skill is going to get interrupted. So that's kind of why Charon has literally no play in PvE, and that's why he is more like a PvP character. Okay, so this is not actually the nice part about him. The nice part about this skill is actually the fact that you're able to bounce back and control effect. And this is kind of what I mean by he could be very he can be potentially used if you are facing up against an enemy team which is very control heavy because what happens is that he will be bouncing back control effect for this entire duration of 6 seconds. It's not just bounce back one effect, it's all of them. And this is going to be really nice because if you actually have a very control heavy team, let's say an ice freeze team who they are trying to freeze you with every single attack, etc., you can bounce all of them back, and that's going to be really nice. So that's kind of why I do see value in this skill, and this is pretty much like the only value I can see in this character, in all honesty. So take that as it is. If you ever face up against a very control heavy team, then you may potentially want to play Karen, but other than that, he's just gonna sit in your box pretty much. But let's just go through the rest of his skills nonetheless. So his first one is an ultimate skill, which release a field effect. So during this field effect, what happens is like a debuff. What it allows you to do is reduce the healing by 40% and life drain by 40%. So basically, the enemy won't heal as much as they want. But then the main benefit you actually want to see here is that this is going to give you an extra 30% chance of landing critical hits. Like I said, normally this would be an amazing skill, right? Critical hit, more damage, great skill. In the meta right now, in PvP, with a single gold class everywhere, absolutely it's going to do more harm to you than good. So that's kind of why he's not in the meta. The second skill is kind of have synergy with his ultimate, but basically what it says is normally you do damage to a random enemy and you also reset a debuff on them. So if you actually play Karen with another debuffer, this can potentially work. But then the additional effect is that if this attack is actually a critical hit, you are then actually able to remove off the buffs on the enemy as well, which is a lot nicer. And that's kind of why it has synergy with his ultimate because the field effect the ultimate gives increase your likelihood of landing that crit hit and therefore removing off the buffs. The last skill is a self-protection skill, but basically once again have synergy with his ultimate, with his field effect, which is that whenever any ally lands critical hit, you're going to restore HP up to 15%. And this can be triggered every 2 seconds. So if you're actually doing loads and loads of critical hit, for your whole team. Let's say if the enemy does not have a synagogue close, so you're not too worried about crit giving shield. Uh, your whole the all of the enemy is going to get 30% increase critical hit chance of being landed on them. So therefore, it's actually quite likely for your ally to land critical hit, and you will just be restoring your HP constantly. So carrying them can potentially actually be quite bulky up front, potentially, if you do want to play. Especially if you then put this in conjunction with his looping skill, which actually give him like a potentially 6 second immunity. This can be makes him incredibly hard to kill off. So that's basically how it works. Now, if we actually move to the close, the first one is okay. It's reducing your trigger interval to 1.5 seconds for your self protection skill, so the skill full, which is fine, nothing too crazy. Level 30 is actually a really nice one. Sorry, level 20, so the third level. Basically, what happens is you recover 16,000 Cosmo per second when you're releasing a Cyclone Blade. So Cyclone Blade is a signature skill I keep on talking about. You have 6 seconds when you're in that state. If you are regenerating 1600 per second, so that basically means at the end of this state, you're going to come out with 9600 Cosmo. And most of the time, that's going to be enough for you to release your ultimate. So basically, an optimally built Charon should have at least level 20 close, so that what you can do is almost a cycle of you keep on using this looping skill, and as soon as you finish your looping skill, you then have full enough Cosmo in order to launch your ultimate straight away and then have this field effect. At level 30, what you are also able to do is all the debuff delta on enemies increased by 100%. So this one can potentially be useful if you have loads of other debuff on the team, so you are effectively doubling off their effect. If Karen is your only debuffer, then I don't think it's that worth it, because what it would then do is just increase your healing and life drain to 80%, which to be honest is potentially able to shut down a lot of the very healing built or very defensive team. So yeah, that actually it can potentially work. And also, of course, extras doubling this, so extra 60% chance of you landing a critical hit, and that's gonna make your of your other stuff a lot nicer as well. For example, healing yourself and also removing buff, etc. So yeah, so this is good, but I think the sweet spot is probably level 20, so that you're able to release your ultimate straight after your looping skill. Now we move on to Constellation. The first one is already really nice, which is your charge strike. When it hits a critical hit, before it will just remove off the buff. Now you actually stun the target for 2.5 seconds. 2.5 seconds is actually a pretty decent amount of time. So this is actually already quite nice. The only thing with this is that charge strike is RNG single target. So it randomly hits one target. So there's loads of RNG involved in this. But you don't need to worry too much about that, because at 9 out of 9, what you're going to get is in his field effect, what's going to happen is all of his normal attack is now going to be changed to your charge strike. And what your charge strike is, if you remember, when it calls a critical hit, you are then going to stun them. And now, because before there was lots of RNG element because you're only hitting a single target, now yes, you're still hitting a single target, but because it replaces off your normal attack, you're going to do this a lot more frequently. So now, even though it's still random, it's actually a lot more likely for you to get in that stun effect on the actual enemy you want to stun, because you have lots of chance to do this, right? Even though it's RNG, you're repeating this multiple times. So overall, that's going to greatly increase the chance of actually making something good out of this charge strike, out of this stun, out of removing this buff. And if I actually played really well, normal attack I normally hits every 1.5 or 2 seconds. This field effect is goes on for 10 seconds. So, you are able to get solid 5 to 7 attacks during that period. So what you can potentially do is actually just stun your entire enemy team and also remove buff on all of them. So this can actually be really powerful. So I definitely say 9 out of 9 is a big jump for his constellation. And also in terms of, how he would work, assuming you have full constellation and full close. It's like what I said. What's going to happen is he's going to use his looping skill during which time he will have immunity, he will bounce back, control effects, etc. As soon as this finish, he would have full Cosmo to then go into Ultimate. And when Ultimate is ready, and when he launches his Ultimate, the field effect will be active. And doing that field effect, he won't be doing any normal attack. He will just be doing his uh, looping skill, in which case it will be all stuns and removing buffs all around, and that's going to be really strong as well. So overall, to be honest, his whole skill kit is actually very well sort of. Like they all have great synergy with each other, and if you actually do this to perfection, he can actually be really strong. But you haven't seen a go close in PvP meta, and that pretty much just ruins the entire strategy that Karen's trying to play. So yeah, that's pretty much the reality. Like he can be a strong character, but the meta completely ruined him. And I'm gonna be honest, a single gold class is not gonna go away anytime soon. Yes, in the future there are some characters who are able to counter a single gold class better, so you may not see a single gold class in every single team. But she's still so good that she'll be in a solid, 60-70% of them, and you are just not gonna have any chance to play Karen in a team when you will be facing up against a single god class most of the time. So yeah, so that's kind of my verdict on this character. Solid if you do everything to perfection, but otherwise not in the PvP meta. It's gonna be pretty bad in the story mode as well. So just absolutely no point on putting him. So you can just skip him and save up all your resources for someone else or for some other resources like constellation orbs or like lyre orbs, etc. instead.